Megan, I am so excited to welcome you to the show because this is my favorite kind of episode to do because I get to have someone I adore on. That's you. And I get to highlight just what an incredible person you are and how far you've come, both as a leader and in your business. But I also get to do what I love to do most, which is pepper you with questions and challenge you and help you continue to cultivate the growth that you're already having. So welcome to the show. And I'm so excited to have you. And I would love for you to share more about yourself, your business, your life with our audience before we jump in.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. So I'm Megan Williamson and I live in northern Indiana, Notre Dame country, which I know Liz is a fan of.
Yes.
And we live on 10 acres, kind of homestead, have chickens at one point in time, had horses, a garden, have the kombucha on my counter. It's the biggest talking point, I feel like, every time we're with people. And we homeschool our kids. But besides that, I'm also a photographer and I've started coaching. So most of the time when people hear photographer, they think weddings. I do all architectural photography. So we do real estate, vacation rentals, and custom homes. It's a little bit different and I love it.
Yeah. One of the things that I feel like we've really clicked on is just the way, I guess the world would call it unconventional living. I would say it's probably how life is designed to be, but how you guys have been so courageous in everything from how you school your kids over all these years of homeschooling to um, really how you lead your family in general, you and Jeremy, and how it permeates into your business and how you've pursued medical intervention for your family in a holistic way. It's something I admire so much about you, and I turn to you for a lot because it's really I don't know, very much in line with how Michael and I want to continue to raise our family too. So it to me, to be able to do that, to go against the grain, to be able to kind of do things that maybe the world sees as unconventional is usually a testimony to the caliber of the person within. And when we first met, I'm going to let you paint a picture because I want to hear it in your words. But when we first met, it was very evident when I heard those things about you, you were living in congruence with that innate way that you are in your life, in your family. And then when we got to analyze your business, it was like, oh, she hasn't applied it here yet. Like she hasn't developed that same level of confidence that she has in her home, in her business. So will you share a little bit more about, right around when we first connected, how would you describe yourself in terms of leadership? How would you describe your business and where it was at that time? Like just maybe go back a couple years and paint a bit of a picture of that.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things that I kind of said, entrepreneurship found me. I didn't set out, I went to college. I didn't set out to own my own business. I knew from the time that I realized who I was going to marry and that we were setting down that path that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Like that was my ultimate goal. Like I wanted to raise my kids. I wouldn't have said that I wanted to homeschool my kids at that point in time. I was homeschooled in high school. That was in the late 90s. And so, therefore, it was a little bit different experience than it is today. But I wanted to at least stay home with them until they went to school. And photography kind of landed in my lap. I was already doing it, but didn't think it would become a business. So, for the first probably 18 years, I shot weddings on the weekends while I was home with my kids. I never was like the full time photographer. And then year after year we continued to homeschool. It was are we going to do this, but probably after 5 years of homeschooling we don't talk about it anymore, and now we have two juniors in high school this year, so we're done talking about it. We're going to see them through. But it was fly by the seat of my pants, basically. Like it was a little extra money, but definitely not leadership. And so when I stepped into real estate photography 5 years ago, if you would have said then where I'd be today, I would have probably laughed and said, there's no way. And so once I started my business started growing so quickly and I had to bring on other photographers, I can't say that I stepped into a leadership role. It was still like floundering, like not giving advice. I mean, teaching them how to do it and then expecting them to just do it and not having feedback or anything like that. So from the time it's always funny because the first time I met with you, I was like, my goals were so small. Like I was drawn to you. I think from a lot of like what you said, there's a lot of similarities that we have, and I loved listening to your podcast. And I always say it's one of those God things. Like I filled out the application, which is really not me, and then I forgot about it. So then when you when you reached out to me, and we had that first conversation, I don't want to say that I was skeptical because there was nothing about like you that was skeptical, but I'm not going to do anything with this. And then we talked, and I was like, I went home and told my husband, I was like, I have to do this. And so I even like, because I've been coaching with you for 2 years now. Last year, even to this year, I'm a completely different person. My business is completely different. I'm still learning to be a leader. I have so far to go, but I feel like my business fits with how I run the rest of my life. And I
Mm.
didn't see that as being part of it. I say that I buck the system in everything that I do, and that also means being an entrepreneur and not doing 9 to 5, not wanting that for my kids. And it's just been a really cool journey.
Yeah, I can see it. And I feel like you're such a prime example of how quickly things can transform in your business when you focus foremost on leadership. Like we all have a long way to go. We all have so much more we can learn and apply. And that's what I love about leadership is it's never a destination. It's forever the journey. It's forever just like tweaking as we go. And I think a big part of it is you are seeking that, right? So a lot of people come to the table and they're very hell-bent on growing their business, which is great. I love growing businesses. But when we kind of reveal that the path there is going to come first and foremost from building the bridge from who you are now to who you need to be to grow the business that you say that you want to run, there's this resistance of like, yeah, I know, but I study leadership or I read the books or I listen to the podcast. I just need to know the right marketing strategy, or I just need to know who do I need to hire and what do I need to tell them to do. And although those things are valuable, I feel like one thing that you've really embraced, and I could tell it was difficult in the beginning because it is for everybody, is that coachable nature of like, all right, help me see what I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's really challenging, right? And I think by nature, you are someone who is so loving and so caring of others that sometimes when the next step for you comes down to either challenging how you're leading them or having a tough conversation or making the tough choice, it's easy to fall back on that comfort of like, well, I don't want to, like, I have to keep everybody comfortable. And so just seeing how you've been able to really step into those opportunities, because that's what they are, to really grow and lead well, it has created this overflow into your business that has exponentially grown it. Like when we first connected before we started working together, like from a revenue perspective, you've over doubled
Mm-hmm.
your business and your revenue, right?
Yep.
Right. And you've started to grow your team
Mm-hmm.
and you've started to really narrow your focus. Whereas before it was almost like whatever anybody needed, you'd be there behind the camera ready to do it. And now you're starting to become known in your area for what you do and how you do it. And now the cool thing that I love seeing is that when you step into that leadership, you then have the blessing and the gift to be able to teach others
Yeah.
that too. And it's not just in photography. You start to see your value as a leader and a business owner that applies to anybody, which is why I'm so excited that you are there to support and coach other people who are going to resonate with your message and how you do things, because you do buck the system and now you're living it, and now you're creating a framework that other people can come through to experience that exponential growth in their world too. Let's go back a little bit though, because it took a while. It took like maybe almost 2 years
Yeah.
to hear this part of your story, but there's a piece of your story that has stuck with me since you told me, because I think we all have our own version of it in our own lives. Like the reason we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not ready enough, we're not prepared enough, whatever the thing is. Will you share, kind of go back in time and share that point in your life of inadequacy and what lesson you learned that helped you see that entrepreneurship could be a path and that it was available to you too?
Yeah. So in first grade, I'll preface it by saying I'm the youngest of three girls, and both of my sisters were straight A students, 4.0. And they would say they worked hard for it. I would say no, they didn't. But just kind of naturally intelligent. And so being the third child, I remember in first grade, like on a regular basis, being kept home from school because I didn't feel well. Well, that turned into being diagnosed with dyslexia because when they couldn't figure out anything was wrong with me, they're like, "Why is she getting sick all the time?" Well, it was a nerve thing. I was nervous to go to school because I didn't understand what was going on. I couldn't read when everybody else could. And so that would have been, that's at that point in time, it's like late 80s, early 90s when they still held people back. And to this day, I'm a firm believer in holding people back so that they can get caught up, because you will struggle forever if you can't accomplish, like, get ahead. And so I had the most incredible teachers. I went to special ed. I had incredible special ed teachers. My parents were very fundamental in encouraging me, and then I went to a specialist outside of school. So I had all the tools that were given to me, which a lot of people aren't. And my parents never compared me to my sisters, which I think was huge. And so by the time I was in 5th grade, I was reading high school level, which again is unheard of for someone with dyslexia. I enjoyed reading. I even remember like my friends calling me the smart one and asking me to help them with their homework, which to this day I'm like, okay, well, if it's math, let me help you. No, I'm just kidding. But like, it wasn't like this. I don't want to say it wasn't this fake. I wasn't putting on a show, but I was given the opportunity to learn and overcome my learning disability,
Mhm.
and with never feeling like I had to meet this expectation. Like my parents were always like, we don't care if you get A's or B's or C's. We just need to know that you're trying your hardest. So then fast forward, I went on to college because at the time that's what everybody did. College did not come easily for me. I majored in marketing. But as I went through college, and I remember my senior year, my final project was I was in an entrepreneurship class and we created a business from scratch. And like that's where I lit up. Like we from start to finish, and then we presented it in front of local business people and we actually won. But like that's where I was like, I loved this. I loved every second of it, and it was a team, so I think that was setting me up to realize that I didn't have to be able to do everything on my own, because I do think a lot of entrepreneurs think that when you start your business that you have to be able to meet all points of the business, and I have to lean into different people to help my business grow. I can't handle it all, not just because of time, but I'm not good at everything. I am definitely the dreamer, the visionary, not the operations person. And so then again, like early on, I didn't necessarily have this dream of growing a large business, but it was very apparent early on I was not going to work for somebody else. Like that would just take all the joy out of my life. And I think through all of that, I realized that there are so many people who they just go to work every day because they think that's what you have to do. And I want people to realize that with given the right desire and the tools, that they can do it too, and you don't have to be just a certain personality type to do it either. I think that's been a huge thing that I've learned through all this, because in our group we have like every personality type, so it's interesting.
It is very, very, and yeah, it's not a certain make or model of person. Will you tell the piece of the story that really stuck with me was something about your dad?
Yes, I forgot that one. Okay, so in my freshman year of college, I came home from college with, I can't even tell you what my GPA was. It probably wasn't even that bad. I mean, some people might think it was, but it might have been like high twos. But again, I'm comparing to my friends and my sisters, and I came home and I remember like standing in the kitchen just crying to my parents about my GPA. And again, they had put no pressure on me. And my dad walks downstairs to the basement because he keeps everything and comes up with his report card, and it was his first semester of college where I think he had like a 1.7, and he was on probationary status. And he said to me, he goes, did this define my success? And so, and of course I had to say no, because my dad went on to be a very successful businessman and made wise choices in what he did, and he retired as VP. And so like that was instrumental in knowing that that grade wasn't what defined me. And even to this day, I mean, with my own children, I'm when they don't, then they get a less than stellar grade, or they don't test well, or any of the things. Like, that's not what defines success. There is so much more to that. And I think that's why I go such against the grain when it comes to traditional school, because testing people and telling them whether they're going to be successful is not, it's not true. It's not real life. I'm tested as a person, probably more so on my own all the time, but no one's testing me. They're not putting a test in front of me and saying, memorize all of this stuff, and then, oh, okay, you're going to be successful. Like, it's the drive, honestly.
Right. Right. The tests that we experience in life that actually are indicative of what our success, for lack of other terms, is going to be are like the trials we walk through, right? Like the challenges, how we navigate them. And I loved that story of your dad, because sometimes that's all we need. Like, we just need a little bit of evidence of what's possible, and we need someone who's gone before us to be able to show that path. And that's why I'm such a believer for myself and for my clients and whomever, that you need to have mentors and people in your life who are willing to hold up their report card from years ago and say, yep, I was there too. And this is what it looks like to come to the other side of that, and to hone your skills and your gifts, and to know what's really possible. So I just love that. And so I think one thing I think of when I'm working with you guys in the Visionary CEO Mastermind, that's like always front and center for me, is really constantly coming back to the question of like, what are you being guided to in this season? And this is not from a place of like lacking complacency. It's not saying like you always have to be striving and pushing and it's the next 10x goal. I don't mean that. When I talk about your big next, I'm talking more about staying in continual alignment with what God's placing on your heart in this time frame. I picture it like, people talk a lot about the idea of balance, but if you were to, zoom in on a ballerina when she's, up in her point stance on her toes, it's really like this constant back and forth that's happening, that's like keeping her steady. It's never just like perfect stillness. And that's kind of how I view it. It's like, are we recalibrating according to just what God's placing under our feet in that season? So I'm curious for you, as you continue to grow so much in your business and make shifts and open the door to new opportunities and do things like this that would have normally been like totally off your radar when we first started working together. You would have laughed at me at the prospect of coming on a podcast. What feels like, when you tune out the noise or the fear or the doubt or all the things that we all struggle with, what feels true for you in terms of your big next and what you're really being guided towards right now?
So I don't actually think I even shared this with you. So this is your first.
Okay, great.
When we were in Arizona, when we went to show it, I was like, this is what I want. Like, not, I should probably say, because you don't know what that is. People don't know what that is. But like, so one of the things that stood out to me is their background was camp ministry. And that plays a huge part in like my high school like that. My son's going to the same camp this summer to work, and I'm like so excited, and I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm 20 years out of this. But one of the things we were talking about was like, Keen, I'm 20 years out of working at that camp, and those are still the most instrumental time that was one of the most instrumental times in my life and best memories. And just, I love the office space that Show It has built and it was just like, this is what I'm looking for. Like, I don't have that with us all being from different like, we all work around here, but we're all working out of our homes, I guess you could say.
Right.
And it will look different because we are shooting homes a lot. So it's not like we're all just collaborating there, but just home based, to have that relationship, because culture is so important to me. And it's hard to build that culture when you don't have a space to be in, I feel like. So that's one aspect of it that is a huge goal of mine, is to have an office space, but then also the coaching side of it, which I think that having the office space would be great, because I have found that I've done coaching online. I'll continue to do coaching online because I can't be in person all the time, but what fills me up is in person. Like, I can we just got off of this 4-week intensive boot camp, and like at the end of the four, it flew by. I loved every second of it. And sometimes when I'm getting on the Zoom call, I can get on my head, even like in a podcast, and like be nervous. But when I'm in person, I feel like it just comes so organically.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are my, I would say, on the horizon of my big things. I still want to work on writing a book, realizing that's going to be a lot longer process than I realized after speaking to you.
Yep.
But yeah, I just feel like as much as I love shooting, I love being a photographer, but I don't see me doing that the rest of my life. And more than that, I love seeing other people succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like super excited about the team I have going right now and where they're going and how it's going to impact their life as well.
So when you think about that and it has that, kind of the evidence that it's the right track for you, it has that like lightness and that positive energy, even though it's something out of reach today. What do you feel like, what do you anticipate being some of the struggles with either belief or readiness to step into that from a leadership perspective? Like knowing where you've been tripped up before, or where when you think of that vision, it's very easy, like when we think of our big next, to immediately after that start to have a lot of the reasons why it might not work
Mm-hmm.
start to pop up. What are those things for you?
When it comes to like having the space, I immediately think financial. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a lot bigger burden whether we purchase a place or we rent a place. And I mean, there always is that like wondering if you're going to fail. Like, is this really going to be successful? Am I going to do what it takes to be successful? And I mean, it's been a constant struggle for me. Like, I am the dreamer. Like, I can give you all of the ideas. I find my drive from being with people and shooting. And so sometimes the work that has to take place at the computer or at home to get to there is pushed to the side because I say yes way too often when
Yep.
given the opportunity to be with people.
Yep. So some of it is like the tactical disciplinary stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and some of it is just kind of the belief in what's available and what's possible financially.
Yeah.
So when you think about what has to change, what has to start to change today to make space, because I like to take leadership out of the clouds and make it tangible, right? Because it can feel really esoteric and kind of a little too elusive. Like, oh yeah, I'm becoming leader. Well, what does that mean, and how can we find evidence of it? So when you think about those things, what do you feel like are things that either have to be released or changed or implemented
Mm-hmm.
starting now, so that you have tangible evidence of that trajectory? Even if I'm all for 3-year visions, 5-year visions, like 10-year visions, I don't care how long it is. It's just evidence that we're on the trajectory versus the more common strategy people have, which is just put your head down and work. And eventually that hard work will compound magically into the thing that we want.
I mean, I know that, so I'm really good at making relationships. And I need to, okay, we might need to cut all this out. Blah, 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 blah.
You're okay.
I mean, it really comes down to having that devoted time to not just like, I have the vision now, but then creating the process to get there. And I mean, I think that if I don't do that, it's 3 to 5 years. I think if I do that, it's a year.
Mm-hmm.
So where do I like what do I want to see happen? And I'm definitely in my mind more on the year because I think in all of that there's going to be like the leader in me really is going to have to come out even
Mm-hmm.
more, a lot
Yeah.
more than it has. And with my kids at the age that they are, I mean, we've got a year left with our one, and then another year. Not that they're not going to come home, but like out of school, like I don't want to wait until they're 4 years out of school to finally feel like I've got my head above water and can go see them if they live somewhere else, or all the things. Like, it's not even just about freedom, but right now I don't have freedom because my business just keeps growing, which is amazing. And it's been one of those things that, like, as I've implemented over the last 2 years, my business continues to grow and grow, but I still have to put the work in all the time to be the leader that I'm called to be, and to um, focus in areas that aren't as easy for me to focus on.
So you gave a lot of tangibles, your schedule, financials. What are the beliefs that you think might come up that we might need to unearth so that that year is a possibility for you?
I think just not just speaking it, that really believing that it's possible. Because it's, I think sometimes you get to this point that people, everyone around you, they see you in a different way than you see yourself. And so, like, I would say to friends, and even like a lot, because we work so much with realtors, a lot of the realtors in the area, they're always like, it's great. They're always tooting my horn and telling me how amazing I am. And it's easy to, like, start to, I don't want to say, like, get in your, like, it's not a big ego type of thing, but you're like, okay, yeah, I am doing a good job. But, like, believing that I can take that next step, and that where I'm at, it's not about, like, it's not good enough right now. It's really, it comes down to the legacy that I want to leave. And I think over the last year and a half, I've realized that when I'm done working, which I don't think I'm ever going to be done working, which we've also talked about, like, it's not just as a wedding photographer. I thought, okay, when I'm done, I'm done. Like, there's no more. This is what it is. And now I'm seeing that, like, I can build this business whether my kids want to take over it or I sell it in the future or whatever. There's something so much greater than just working right now to earn a paycheck. But I have to, a lot of times I know it's there, but I don't, do I believe that I really can do it? I don't know. Like, sometimes I question. It's like writing the book. I really want to write the book, but I am an awful writer, like, awful writer, and thinking, like, how am I going to do this? But I know I want to get my story out there because I want to help other people.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing we talk a lot about, is the idea that, like, we don't get to have the evidence before we believe. Like, there is an element of crazy that comes with dreaming bigger and stepping into what's next for you, because the whole point is that what is next, you are not equipped for in this very moment, although the next moment can start to be a part of the equipping, and every moment thereafter if it's really intentional. But I think because the inherent nature of thinking beyond what's possible right now, you have to have this bit of, you know, this mindset of things are possible and available to me outside the realm of what's been possible to me up to this point. And that is a little bit crazy by its nature on its face. So I think the belief is gonna, like, momentum begets momentum. So it's this really beautiful dance between identifying the model, which we've been talking a lot about in the mastermind, right? Like, when you think about, just for context, like at our in-person mastermind retreat, we were down in Arizona and we went to the company show it. And when we were there, I think we all felt what you described. Todd and Elisa, the owners, are very unique in how they've built this culture in their organization, and how organically they have grown, and how impactful they are, and how true to their values they've remained. And I think it was a huge inspiration to so many of us of the power of culture in an organization. So then you have to take that, and what you're doing right now is you're saying, okay, culture for me, one of the ways that I want to implement that is transforming the model where we're not all just remote, and we can bring ourselves together and start to create that culture within four walls. So that's a really important piece, right? The model itself, and making sure it aligns with you and your business and your family and how you want to do life. And then doing that in congruence and in conjunction with also, okay, like, what does it look like for me to break through some of the upper limit problems I've faced in the past or the beliefs I've had in the past to do the things I haven't yet done and create the momentum that helps me step towards that. And that's why, we're such a believer in the power of the pack and having people around you to be able to reflect back to you the corner pockets of your life and your leadership that you cannot see, but are there and waiting to be cultivated. And so for you, when I think of that belief and when I think about that trajectory, I think going back to the tangible, one area of focus for you can be starting to develop the discipline around your schedule and saying, what does someone like when you think of using Todd and Elisa as an example, someone that runs an organization that has a culture like that, what are they doing in their days and what are they absolutely not doing? Right? Like, what are they weaving into their schedule and how are they running their schedule? And then what are they eliminating from their schedule that the average entrepreneur might still embrace, whether it's chaos or reactivity, or whether it's, meaningless meetings or not being strategic in how they create organization or operations that allow them to continually be in that leadership seat. So I think that's going to be a huge advantage for you, is the more that you can look at your day-to-day and say, how can I step more boldly into the CEO seat so that I can make space for this new dream? Because it's going to require space. Like, it's not going to be another year of you solely behind the camera and then day 365, cool, now we're good, we can make this shift. It is actually going to be a shift. Like, what would allow for you to still do what you do, but maybe do it in a different capacity? Again, coming back to the model, how often are you shooting? How much team do you need to support it? And starting to ask those questions of yourself regularly in that time that you allot during your weeks for visionary CEO time, to be able to say, like, okay, what are the gaps? What team would we need to have established 1 year from today with this new model that would make it possible? Okay, we don't have them. What would it look like to roll that out over the next year? What quarter would we want to make certain hires so that we can onboard them? What systems would we need in place to take me out of the day-to-day more and allow our team to feel really confident? Because a lot of times culture, you can have the best leader, the best intentions and the best values, but if they create an environment of chaos because there aren't the systems and there aren't the processes and there isn't an equipping of the team to thrive, it doesn't matter how well-intentioned the leader might be in the culture. Chaos is its own culture and it turns into a cancer. So what would you say are some things that you can start to implement over the next month to start to, and I'm not saying like you make the hire this month, but start to project and plan for, that would start to turn the ship towards this new trajectory?
Yeah, I'd say since like January, I've done a much better job of blocking myself out for certain times. And when, for the people who don't realize, because we're doing real estate, the turnaround time is so quickly. And so I used to get the phone calls and I would get the texts and it would be like, oh, you're not available. And now I'm like, no, but my team is, or, whatever. And I've just stopped letting it bother me. And it's been interesting because there's still a handful that only want me, but I've seen that they're getting more and more comfortable with my team doing it. But I know that probably the biggest thing I need to implement is not being the one who reacts to the phone calls and the text messages, and turning off my phone. Because let's face it, most things are not an emergency. And so like I'll sit down to work, I'll be like, okay, I've got this time, and then I get distracted by the emails and the phone calls. And I mean, I have self-diagnosed myself with ADHD. I mean, I'm sure that I'm sure that it went unrecognized as a child.
Yeah.
And now it's crazy, like how quickly I can get distracted. So like turning off all of those distractions and really spending that time in the morning where no one can get a hold of me and I can focus on the bigger picture. And knowing that my team has it, because they do. Like, I feel confident in my team. And so there's no reason for me to have to worry about what's going on when I'm not out there shooting.
Yep, exactly. And the more, like, we've talked a lot about this, and we actually on tomorrow's Visionary CEO Mastermind call, we are going into this around pricing, where you price yourself out of the jobs that would keep you stuck in the weeds. And how do you elevate your pay structure so that anytime someone is wanting Megan or is getting your time, it is incredibly supportive of the long-term vision, not just like the quick buck, but like where the trajectory and where you're going, and bringing in the right amount of cash flow and capital to support that bigger vision. It's very strategic. So there are ways you can elevate and grow. And I know that's one of the ways you've grown. When I nearly sent you straight to jail when I heard what you were originally charging for your services a couple of years ago. So I know that that's already been a part of the process, but there's going to be another up leveling, right? Like as you go into this next level of opportunity and possibility. When you think of like I love the piece of the vision for you of bringing in like coaching clients in person. And a really cool thing that I do a lot of is like, I work with people all over the world, but my higher ticket programs do have elements of in-person if people want it. So it doesn't limit your reach and your possibility. It's not like you can only serve, the local area, but you can still have a location where you can bring people in to expedite their results and their transformation. Who are the type of people you like to serve in terms of coaching and business?
I like people who've been in business for like I would say 2 to 5 years, who are starting to make a little bit of money, so they're ready to invest and they realize they need to take it to the next level, but really don't know where to go from there. Like they've not ever had anyone, they feel like they still have to do it on their own, and helping them with those things where you can start implementing other people to help you, and you're not paying ungodly amounts. We're not saying that you're hiring a full-time, but that you're offloading things that are just consuming your time. And then I really like people who are like me, that were thrown into entrepreneurship with no intent to become an entrepreneur. So a lot of who I work with right now are realtors, because a lot of realtors don't realize that it is not that they don't realize because they're a 1099, but that it's really their business and it's theirs to make it their business, and they're not to just fly under the seat of the brokerage that they're with. And so helping them figure out like where they want to go, because I've had to learn over the years like what my ideal client is and who I enjoy working with. And I would say that for the most part, I attract who my ideal client is. And it's funny because when anyone ever finds out that I was a wedding photographer, the first thing they say to me is like, oh, bridezillas. And even at that point in my life, like there's a lot of reasons I'm so thankful to be done with weddings, but I can't say in like 18 years of being a wedding photographer that I ever had a bridezilla. So, I mean, that was not why I didn't want to do it anymore. But you would, if you don't know who you're attracting, well, you're either attracting no one or you're attracting everybody. And then, and there's the whole scarcity mindset that, well, you have to say yes to everybody because they're going to pay you and you need the money. But if you get so into like, and again, with realtors, that's a lot. They're like, well, I serve anybody. And I'm like, it's not that you're not going to serve the $1 million client or the first time home buyer. It's not that those are never going to come to you, but if you know who you're serving and that's who you're speaking to, that's who you're going to attract. And so I just love when they start to get it, and then you see it change through following them as well.
Yep. So you've recently started to implement some kind of just like challenge and gamification into your process, which by the way is like in terms of ADD, a lot of entrepreneurs have, whether it's actual ADD or just a propensity towards being ADD because of like chicken or the egg kind of situation. I think entrepreneurship attracts people who naturally have ADD. I think it also creates a culture of ADD too. So anyway, my point is, when you have that, one of the key things you need in order to be successful, and why so often, like I know for myself and my clients, it's like if it's not urgent or my back's not against the wall, like I'm not doing it. The same way as in college, I don't think I ever wrote a paper that wasn't like the night before it was due. So creating challenge is a very wise way to stay motivated and to stay on track. Can you talk a little bit about what you've been doing in your own life and with some of your clients to do that in a way that helps them progress and grow their businesses?
Yeah. So, I mean, I should have recognized this in myself earlier in life because I'm a big bucket list person. And it's kind of funny because most of my friends know that if they spend enough time with me, they're going to do something crazy, whether it's climb mountains or run half marathons or any of the things. And so, but I never like really correlated it to my business. And then recently when we were in Arizona, I'd been slacking on like working out and putting that as a priority. And between you and Tara and other friends of just like setting that 30-day goal, like a personal goal, and it was in business as well, and sticking to it. Well, not only was it a goal for myself, but I knew you guys knew about it. And so like for 30 days straight, I worked out, and if some days we were traveling and it might have been 10 to 15 minutes, but I did it no matter what. And then I would like check in. And so just like knowing that somebody cared that I was meeting my goal and was huge for me. But then because I am so goal oriented, once 30 days was up, obviously the goal is to continue, but now I'm like almost 60 days in and I'm like, I can't break the streak. And I was telling you in the beginning that we don't have electricity because of a storm, and my workout room is in the basement in the dark. And I was like, well, that's just not gonna work. And so last night I'm like laying on the carpet in the dark doing ab workout so I could say that I could get it in. So anyway, as I've implemented that in my personal life, realizing that I can do the same thing in my business life, and I've created like this system of point values, so high leverage and low leverage moves. So like it can be different for everybody. I mean, some of it's similar, but for example, spending 10 minutes engaging on social media is not a high leverage move because way too many of us spend too much time on social media. But calling a potential client or making that connection is going to be a higher one, or being on a podcast or different things like that. And so the goal is to get to 61 points every day, and depending on what you're doing depends on how many things you have to do, but it's really taking you into the high leverage moves. And just knowing that, okay, I mean, sometimes you might get to it really early in the morning if you really put the effort in, and then all of that extra is higher points, and then you can feel even better about yourself. But we created this document that you can track it, and then there's also slots that you can add things in that might be something that you do that not everybody else would do in their business, and kind of rate it how you want to.
Yeah, I love that because I think it's really about focus. And it's identifying ahead of time the things that you focus on that are going to produce the bigger result. Because a lot of times we focus on plenty of things, but they're not necessarily the right things that move the needle. So we're very busy. We're very productive. We spend a lot of time doing things, but then we come to the close of our week and if we were to measure, we're no further along than we were the week before, despite how many hours we put in, despite how much we've been doing. And it's not always about doing, it's about concentrating the efforts. And it naturally creates that motivation and that challenge. So tell people where they can come find you and learn more about how they can implement this too. I know you've created kind of a system for this.
Mm-hmm. So you can find me on Instagram at Meg Williamson Photography. And if you just DM me Luminary, I can send you that free download so that you can get started. And yeah, I'd love to connect over Messenger and see how I can help you.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put all of that in the show notes. But Megan, I'm so thankful that you came on the show, and I've just absolutely so genuinely loved watching your just such authentic transformation. And it is in big part why I love doing what I do, is because you've taken the ball and run with it. It's just been a willingness to continue to grow and look into sometimes those darker corners that we're like wanting to ignore, but they're really the linchpin into helping us access what we truly want in every category of our lives. So I love seeing you succeed. I love seeing your business thrive. I love hearing your big next because there's so much potential. And I see you as the type of person that is just going to grab it and go for it and make it happen. So thanks for sharing your story and for being on here with us. And I will link everything. Make sure you message Megan on Instagram and message her Luminary so you can get that and start to implement it in your business. It's really fun and it works, and it creates a lot of measurable progress for you.
Thanks, Liz.